Muchísimas gracias y buenas noches. Hello. Saludos. Saludos. It's amazing to be here, Simpson Thatcher. Jaime, thank you so much for your words and for the bringing up and elevating the name of Ernesto Collazo, former board chair of LatinoJustice PRLDEF, former colleague of mine that I've relied upon for many years for labor law advice over so many years in my work in nonprofit. So thank you so much. We are literally going to go racing through this presentation for you because when I walked in, I realized, oh, wow, we're Simpson. They ain't got no chairs. All right, so we're going to make it fast and sweet and all that. The photograph that you see behind me is me going like this. So every time I go like this, what are you going to do? Go like that too, right? You got it? We got this? We're going to do like, some call and response. But the fact of the matter is that we are running into an amazing time to live in this country, an amazing time to take charge of what's happening before us, an amazing time to actually take advantage of these opportunities. It's not just the threats. It's not just the harm. It's not just the depression that we have of being bombarded every day of the week almost with news about how things are going backwards. It's actually the opposite. It's actually the opportunity that it provides for us to make this country, our country, a better place. And that takes two different concepts that we're highlighting this year. It's both courage and transformation. The courage to recognize that being Latina or Latino in this country, at this particular point in our history, to just walk the streets of our country takes an amount of courage. To recognize that this particular election that we're about to undertake in the country in November, just a few months from now, will embolden, unfortunately, this is very true, I have to start out with this note, will embolden hate in this country. It'll embolden hate whether the current occupant of the White House gets reelected. And it will embolden hate if the current occupant of the White House gets voted out. Regardless of which way this cuts, we have to be ready for the backlash. And as a result of that, the courage to be standing up, supporting an organization like LatinoJustice, like you do for so many days and weeks and months and years that you've done for us, the way you supported us when we were at the base of the Puerto Rican Latino movement in this country, when we were able to increase the opportunity of Puertorriqueñas y Puertorriqueños to become lawyers back when we opened our doors. The fact that you're associating with us at a time when we become the object of scorn and critique is so important to us. And many of you in this room have noticed. And the fact that you're with us now today is also very, very important to me. But the other word is transformation. And that is something that we're learning more and more in the context of the kind of work that we're doing. We're learning so much from the people that we work with on the ground with criminal justice, drug policy, and policing reform. You see, when you think about those three elements of our social life, just fixing criminal justice at the edges is not enough. It has to be completely transformed. And as we'll show you in a minute, it has to be completely dismantled. It has to be completely decolonized. And that's the kind of message that we want to have in 2020. We're not going into 2020 with our, just constantly looking over our shoulders to see what's going to happen. Afraid of being who we are. Damn it, we're going to take 2020 because no nos vamos. We're not going anywhere. So in many ways, what's at stake here, and this is an incredible opportunity to recognize those two words, but what's at stake is the next slide, I believe. And it's really a combination of a lot of things. It's representation and participation. Not only the ability to elect candidates that we like, can actually serve our needs and are responsive to our needs, but also being able to participate and not being harassed when we go to vote, not being harassed when we've been asked for extra ID and nobody else has asked for the ID. There's also our safety and our security. We are super involved. All of our work on criminal justice recognizes that, first and foremost, our communities need to be safe. They need to understand that institutions should operate to first and foremost keep them safe. But it's also our liberty and our dignity. It's like, recognizing that we've been around for so long in this country that we refuse to accept anything less than the inalienable right to be free, the inalienable right to live and prosper, and the inalienable right to recognize that we have a measure of dignity that comes with being around for so long. And the being around for so long is the same whether we've been here for generations as Latinas y Latinos, or whether our parents came over just 20 years ago. Because this country was not founded, obviously, in isolation. This country was founded in a hemisphere in which we have already been part of. Our migration patterns, and I call them migration patterns, not immigration patterns, our migration patterns are what made this country great. So let's stop pretending that there's a divide between older generations of Latinas y Latinos and newer generations of immigrants. Al contrario, we're all treated the same in the eyes of many people in this country. So we might as well own it up and make sure we adopt it and actually take advantage of those opportunities. And the last one is opportunity and access. We can talk a lot about 2020, its challenges for the census, its challenges for the election, but every day goes by, the economy keeps churning. Every day goes by, and our ability to raise enough money and get enough income to have a sustainable wage and raise a family in this country is still being tested. Every day that goes by, it's not like we put everything on suspense, on hold, and deal with the election. It's like every day that goes by increases our need to actually maximize our ability to run new businesses, our ability to get licenses, our ability to have degrees, our ability to deal with student loans, our ability to actually prosper and become as good, as great as possible for our people and our gente. The fact of the matter is that now we are in different pillars of work that we've been doing for quite some time. I put these words up, we put these words up on the screen, but you already know this. The Cesar Perales leadership programs, our pipeline work that has been helping people get into law school since 1972. Our economic justice work, our immigrants' rights work, our Puerto Rico work, which has become a bigger feature of our work over the last several years. Our re-envision justicia work, which actually encapsulates everything we're doing in criminal justice, policing, and drug policy reform, and our voting rights work. And we do so through basic approaches. The approach is a standard. We've been doing this for a long time. Litigation is our bread and butter. This organization was founded on lawsuits that were filed immediately after its founding, like Cesar Perales, Jorge Batista, and Victor Marrero. And they had an idea about bringing lawsuits ASAP, and we follow that legacy. We also follow the legacy of advocacy and community engagement because it's become a bigger and bigger feature of our work, especially when litigation becomes harder and harder to do because of the makeup of our courts. And lastly, it's the pipeline. It's leadership development that goes beyond just getting people into law school. It's also supporting them while they're in law school, supporting them while they're undergrads and want to be able to think about law school, and supporting them to become civil rights cognizant and civil rights leaders even if they don't go to law school. Because we have to create a cadre of people who understand our issues and are ready to fight for them. So what we've done over the time is, in these particular pillars, and I'm not going to talk about each of these elements on the slide, you can read them on your own, but I'm just going to highlight one of them, and that's the NGL, Next Generation Líderes, work that we're doing right now. For the last couple of years, we've been targeting both high schools and college age students who are interested in going to law school. And we mentor them with an incredible core volunteer that we call the Líderes. And those líderes are here in this room. Yeah, you can snap your fingers. Go ahead. And they're targeted. They actually get paired up. Well over 3 years now of actual partnerships and mentoring with 20 active pairings today. A couple of our mentees have already gotten accepted and started law school. We've only started this program 3 years ago. So you can imagine what this means in the next several years. Listen to this list of things that these individuals get offered. They get to visit judges like Judge Broderick, former member of our board of directors. They get to go to mock law classes. They get to go to financial aid workshops. They get to do speed mentoring. I still don't know what that is, but somebody will tell me. They get to go to a how to network workshop. You know, the things that you all take for granted because you're adults. You gotta teach that to younger people and how to do it. A digital LSA TV view workshop, a personal statement workshop, a career panel, and moot courts. They get offered each and every one of these elements. I know that both Mariux Segreño and Francisco Guzman, co-chairs are here, right, of the LatinoJustice. Thank you so much. Our work to try to get people interested and support while they're going through the process of going from high school to undergrad to law school and to become lawyers is also part and parcel of our interns. I know at least one of our interns is here, Maria. No, where's she at? Maria Santiago's here. Ahí está. I'm not sure anybody, oh, Bianca, Scott, I'm not sure if she made it. Other interns, if you're here, raise your hands. Former interns of Latin. Future intern. There you go. Over there, también, gracias. You know, the work that we're doing to increase and grease this pipeline towards, you know, fulfillment of career goals is also done in tandem with other entities. And those entities are typically specialty bars, right? We do a lot of work with the specialty bars. And the ones that I know are here represented today include people like from the former president of the Hispanic Bar Association of New Jersey. Shout out to New Jersey. And former president of the Hispanic National Bar Association is Miguel Pozo. I saw him here earlier. I hope he's here now. I hope Robert Maldonado might be here. He's also former president of the HNBA, but we work quite a bit with those organizations too. When it comes to economic justice, I'm not going to highlight everything that we're talking about on the slide, except to tell you that our work on behalf of factory workers, our work on behalf of domestic workers, our work on behalf of healthcare workers is continuing. What we try to do is secure full wages, secure back pay, and ensure that they work in a non-discriminatory work environment. That will be critical in this year going forward as well. And we've had so many successes. It's tedious work to represent 3 or 4 people at a time. 20 workers here, 200 workers there, but it's so necessary. Because at the end of the day, the reason why LatinoJustice needs to do this work on economic justice is because this federal administration will not lift a finger. They think that enforcement of the labor law protections of our country doesn't need to happen. They think that the enforcement of civil rights protections doesn't need to happen. They look the other way while abuses occur, and employers know that. That's why we do what we do with economic justice. When it comes to the issue of immigrant rights, we are so involved in many issues that both preceded this year and will continue in 2020. We continue to combat rights violations of race-based legislation. You know, I'm not sure if I know that in this room is Lillian Marquez from the New York Attorney General's office, New York State Attorney General's office, helped us out. Her staff has helped us out on the Orellano Castañeda, Mark Villaverde, right? Mark, no? He is a partner at Milbank Tweed, co-counsel on our SCPD, Suffolk County Police Department case. I know we have representatives here from Sherman Sterling, both Julissa Zaragoza and Grisel Mercado. I'm not sure if she's here, but Sherman Sterling was an active member and co-counsel in our challenge to police abuses in Suffolk County. I don't know if Aldo Baldini is here. I don't see him, but they are amazing. They were at Winston Strawn, a co-counsel on a challenge to detainers, ICE detainers, and prior to that was co-counsel with LatinoJustice in a lawsuit against ICE for home raids called Aguilar versus ICE. So amazing resources that we have from the private bar from pro bono work and pro bono representation, it's critically important to leverage our assets at LatinoJustice. But the fact of the matter is that we also have to combat hate and racial violence. And in the end of 2019, LatinoJustice did something that it probably never did in its history. But then again, we're living in weird times. We actually thought that when the President of the United States spewed his hate, and somebody actually listened to that, and then drove for hours and hours and hours to kill Mexicanos in El Paso, Texas, that was directly attributable to his words. That is the Latino reason for impeachment. There may be others, but that by itself was the wake-up call. And we could have been woke a long time ago. Just this past week, a resident of Maryland who threatened the life of a Latina woman in Miami through social media, his last name is Lynn, L-I-N, just pleaded guilty to making threats against this woman. He actually was quoted on his Facebook postings as hoping that, praying to God, thanking God for the election of our president, because the president was going to start a race war and a crusade. And he was going to make certain that every Latino was killed. Now he's pleading guilty to a federal crime. So the fact of the matter is that when we combat hate and we combat violence, although it's couched in these issues that we're talking about, we cannot lose sight of the fact that the threat is here. And that's why I started telling you about how no matter who wins this election in November, we have to be prepared. So our Immigrant Rights Works really also addresses that. Our Puerto Rico work has been ongoing. We are basically in 2020 now looking to make sure that the billions of dollars that have been slowed down and delayed. In fact, we were really involved in looking at the legal avenues to force HUD and force its hand until last week when for political reasons and other reasons that I cannot fully understand, it looks like HUD is finally going to make a notice, did issue a notice to release about $18 billion of funds that are held. There's more to be released. We have to make sure they're released as soon as possible. Despite what the administration says, the monies are needed in Puerto Rico as badly as possible. You know, we went through at LatinoJustice a response for Hurricanes Irma and Hurricane Maria. Y now llegaron los sismos, ¿no? The earthquakes. And the sismos are very, very devastating. And we're looking for ways to make sure that disaster relief is actually there. We actually helped incubate about 2 years ago. They're now independent of us, which we applauded. Ayuda Legal Puerto Rico, used to be called Ayuda Legal Hurricane Maria. And they're based in San Juan, a group of lawyers, law professors who do direct work in helping people file for disaster relief. If there's an organization that you want to help or consider helping with your own donations, I will look them up, Ayuda Legal Puerto Rico in San Juan. And like I said, we were partners in their incubation, and they're now standalone nonprofit in Puerto Rico. Our next body of work that we're going to address as well in 2020 is what we call Re-envision Justicia. Interesting combination of words that we try to do in Spanglish form, right? Re-envision Justicia. Y'all can figure it out, right? I know I can, and that is because I live this every day. We are actually one of the few, if not the only, national Latino-based organization, Latino-centered, Latino-led, that dares to talk about these issues straight on. Yes, we are in favor of the legalization of marijuana. Yes, we question this country's ridiculousness when it comes to prohibitionist paradigms on drug use. Yes, we start to question whether police are actually doing the right thing. Yes, we question why prosecutors, judges, parole officers, and probation officers continue to feed into a system that's racialized. Yes, we question why young people get put into databases. And yes, we represent each and every one of those individuals when it comes to harms. Y coño, we'll do it over and over again. But a lot of the work that we're doing now, of course, in the area of policing reform, we have active cases against police departments. In the work of criminal justice reform is also based on our word transformation. We have incredible staff all over the country, in Texas and Florida, right here in New York, that help us see that the issues of the criminal justice system cannot be just reversed with just 1 year's worth of work or one piece of legislation. Al contrario, on the contrary, you have to deal with these issues and these manifestations and these consequences with a clear plan to actually dismantle and then rebuild what would safety look like from our perspective. What does community safety look like without an over-reliance on law enforcement? What does community safety look like without an over-reliance on prisons and the prison industrial complex? So that's what we're trying to deal with as well today. You know, right here, I think in this audience, we have Liani Mudabuti, right? She is here from Drug Policy Alliance. Liani, are you still here? I hope she is. She was here a second ago. There she is. You see, it's the work of the Drug Policy Alliance that gives us the backup and the necessary tools to talk about why this country continues to use law enforcement to address the issues of drug use, as opposed to a health-centered approach to drug use. If you're addicted to drugs, you don't need a judge, a prosecutor, or a cop. You need a doctor, a therapist. And that kind of work that we do with DPA in multiple states, not just in New York, is significant for us. So we thank them for their support as well. I think we have a short trailer now to talk about Decolonized Justice, our film series on this topic. For as long as this country has existed, the dominant narrative has depicted Latinos as alien, as illegal, and as somehow predisposed to criminality. These are stubborn remnants of a colonizing practice that seldom gets discussed, but yet is still embedded in the U.S. criminal justice system. In order to decolonize oppression, we must first make visible the voices of those most directly impacted by it. Latinos have historically been overrepresented in the penal system, and yet underrepresented in the tables that determine their fates. The stories you're about to see go beyond buzzwords that currently dominate the public dialogue about criminal justice to show the faces that are directly impacted. This is what systemic oppression looks like. The criminal justice system needs to not only be reformed, it needs to be dismantled. It needs to be destructured. It needs to be decolonized. We just for as long as this country has existed, the dominant narrative, with myself. We just recently launched this series of films publicly this week, yesterday actually, and we're looking forward for your ideas about how we can engage communities. We have toolkits, discussion platforms. They don't just stand alone. They have ways in which we can get people involved to talk about these issues further and further and further. I actually ask you to please go to our site, both the LatinoJustice website, latinojustice.org, and the site that we've created for these film series, decolonizedjustice.org, and check out what's there. Give us your ideas and your feedback. There's more films to be made and more stories to be told. There's actually a feature on the website, decolonizedjustice.org, that allows you to tell your own stories. Because Lord knows we got stories. And it may not be me personally has a story about criminal justice, and maybe I'm speaking for my brother, or maybe speaking for my aunt. But all those are relevant stories. There's rarely a family that I meet in Latino neighborhoods that's not affected directly by the system. And that's why we got to elevate these stories. The next section is actually on voting rights, and I saved like the most powerful thing for last in many ways. This is such a critical year on multiple fronts. We are literally talking about census awareness and participation. I know that both Arturo Vargas and Juan Rosa are here from NALEO, National Association of Latino Elected Officials, and other staff are here from NALEO. Hi, Arturo. I'm going to ask Arturo, I'm going to take the privilege and ask him a question in a minute. I want you to hear directly from Arturo, who's been doing this amazing work throughout the country on census for many, many years. And NALEO is one of our partners in LatinoJustice. We also know that the issues of redistricting, engagement, and fairness are bubbling up right now. After the census, we go deep into redistricting issues. There's a lot of voting rights concerns about what it means this time around because we don't have the protections or provision of the Voting Rights Act, which we had 10 years ago, called Section 5. You know, we have an amazing ability to try to get this done. People like Mina Perez from Brennan Center have been partners with us, so thank you so much from Brennan. They're amazing people here. When it comes to election protection, we do that all the time. We do that especially for the federal election cycles, and it's so important to recognize that we have to do it again now. Y lo hacemos con orgullo. We do it, you know, with con ganas, you know, with the will necessary to get it done, because we have to protect people who want to be able to vote. About 4 years ago, we were able to really mobilize so many people in election protection in Cada Voto Cuenta, a phone app that we created for that purpose. Fernando Borges is here from Baker, Doug, who was instrumental in helping us to get that off the ground. We have been very, thank you. We are very lucky that we have some of these resources. You may have read that last week we had a major victory in a case in New York State, the entire state, to ensure that lists of inactive voters are also present at the voting booths in New York State when you go to vote for the primaries and for the general election in New York State, because in the past, the boards of elections refused to make those available. If your name wasn't on the official list, you get a paper. That was the routine thing. Now, they'll have to, unfortunately, check 2 databases to see if your name is there, and you can vote on a machine like everybody else. In that case, a common cause litigation that we're part of, along with Dimas, but that was also an incredible effort by the law firm of Deckard and Mauricio España. I know he's here too. Here he is right there. Thank you so much for that, Mauricio. We are doing quite a bit of work. Our expectation in New York City is to continue to lead the country, because what we do in New York City is very unique. We expect and we'll put every effort to make sure we repeat what we did for the last round of redistricting, and we did it in part for the last one before that. And that is to get unity maps. Maps in which Asians, Latinos, and African Americans and Black populations in the new city of New York can trade and see what's the best form of mapping that will assist all of us without us going to fight against each other in court. A major development that we, LatinoJustice, PRLDEF, has been part of for a long time, and we hope to replicate again with our colleagues at the Center for Law and Social Justice and our colleagues at the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. So, down to the end here. I know y'all are standing. I'm going to try to move this really quickly, but thank you so much for your attention so far. Many people ask us what we can do. Number one, you can volunteer for us, and we use volunteers all the time. Whether it's to talk to students, whether it's to staff our telephone bank, when we partner up with Telemundo to answer questions about the census, or partner with Univision to answer questions about the Green Light Law, which actually allowed, for the first time in the history of New York State, non-citizens to get access to driver's license. Yes. We staff those hotlines, and because they're getting promoted on big stations like Univision and Telemundo, those phone numbers go viral. We get hundreds of calls per night. We can use your help to staff those hotlines. You can elevate our work by promoting our work on social media and through your networks. Decolonize Justicia. Please take a look at it, share it with your network so that more people can talk about it and spread the word about the issues regarding criminal justice reform. You can advocate with us and for us and alongside of us. You have connections to people who make decisions in different levels of power in New York City, New York State, and beyond. You can actually share your viewpoints or share viewpoints that you learned from dealing with us about how those policies can change, those policies should change. And of course, you can support us with your dollars. And of course, you can support us with your dollars. The incredible work of our staff. Our staff is here. If you're a staff member, please raise your hand. Raise your hand. If you're a leader member, please raise your hand. If you're a board member, please raise your hand. I'll end with 2 notes of optimism. There's no way I'm not going to be optimistic. I care. I refuse to live my life coward. I mean, C-O-W-E-R-E-D, not coward, A-R-D, right? I refuse to live my life, vista abajo. I refuse to. And no one on the staff of LatinoJustice does that as well. We're going in here with our heads held high. We're going here because we are here to stay. We're doing this work because it's important. And we're doing this work not only because it's important in the abstract for other people, but damn, it's important for us personally. It's our families we're talking about. It's our gente. That's why we do this work. So I have optimism on 2 different points. The first one is that the whole notion about how to address these systems, these institutions, about dismantling systems, is not being kind of like dampened or suppressed just because we have incremental victories. We applaud the incremental victories, but none of us are losing sight of the fact that that's not enough. Yeah, we can applaud the fact that in Florida, everybody who's finished parole and finished probation can finally vote in Florida. Although not as a monkey wrench about their fines and fees. But that's still 800,000 people who are finally eligible to vote. But we know we're not finished in Florida until everyone can vote in Florida, including people behind bars. Just like they vote in Puerto Rico, behind bars, and in Vermont, and in Maine, and in Israel, and in South Africa. Behind bars. So we're not finished. And this notion that we have to be settling for something that we can gain quickly without losing sight of the big picture is wrong. I mean, we've been demanding the repeal of sections 1325 and 1320, criminalization of our migration across the border. We've been calling for the dismantling of ICE, calling for the abolition of prisons as we know them, because the eyes and the prize for our work is really transformation. And last thing, optimism. It's actually the strength of protest. If this last decade has taught us anything, is that protest has taken on an amazing urgency and amazing ability to be even much more powerful tool for social change. Yesterday, the 22nd, was the 47th anniversary of Roe versus Wade, the right for women to choose about their reproductive health. And this year, 2020, will be the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, which provided for the right to vote for women in this country. In this year, both of those victories, one in court and one in the legislatures, plural, are not just a factor of good legislators and good justices. They were actually a product of social change movements. The court did not just out of the blue decide to protect a woman's right to vote. It was responding to the prevailing movement in the country. And the legislatures that ratified the 19th Amendment weren't doing it because they came up with this great idea to let women vote. They did it because they were forced to do so. So damn it, we need to force change. And the ability to protest, just in the last several years, from Black Lives Matter to the Women's March, to the movement by Dreamers and DACA recipients, to this incredible groundswell of activity, gives me a lot of optimism. So I'll end with this. The lawyers at LatinoJustice and the advocates at LatinoJustice and every other staff member of LatinoJustice, including our leaders and our board, lawyers effectively are basically tools for social movements. We're tools. We respond to what those movements demand. We respond to making sure that we can manifest those changes. That's why we exist. We also are here to work towards transformation that they demand, our gente. And we're also here because of their courage. And that's why we're with. Because of their courage and their insatiable appetite for transformation and real change. Thank you very much.